close where I grew up, there was a field without a name. Yellow flowers every April, tall green grass after the rain. We made kingdoms out of branches, built our castles out of stone, and every path between the flowers felt like somewhere all our own. Nobody owned the horizon, nobody told us where to go. There was only sky above us and the wildflowers below. Where the wildflowers used to grow, we ran until the daylight faded. Summer knees and dusty bicycles, every the whole wide world to me. Last October I went looking for the path behind our street, but the wooden fence was missing and there was pavement underneath. Someone built a row of houses, there was a pharmacy and store, and I stood beside a traffic light where we used to run before. For a moment I was angry at the years for moving on, as if time had asked permission before changing what was gone. Where the wildflowers used to grow, now there are windows, cars, and sidewalks. Children ride their bikes between them. Someone's calling them back home. Where the wildflowers used to grow, another life has taken root. Maybe every generation needs a place to call its youth. I started walking back toward town when something caught my eye. Growing through a sidewalk crack, no taller than my shoe. One little yellow flower, the same kind, or close enough. I knelt beside it, laughing at how much I wanted it to be, and didn't pick it, I left it there. Maybe some things don't survive by staying where they were. Maybe they survive by finding somewhere new to grow. Where the wildflowers used to grow, I don't need the field to stay there. Every child who ran across it carried something everywhere. The wildflowers used to grow, time has built another view, but underneath these streets and houses, there's a little piece of who we knew. Let the houses fill with birthdays, let new children come and go, and leave one little crack between the stones for the wildflowers to grow. Old field, new road, one yellow flower beside my shoe. The place disappeared. What grew there didn't.
The city Monday morning with a suitcase and a map. Coffee steaming in the holder, old guitar across the back. There was nothing I was running from, no heart I had to mend. I just wanted one long highway with no reason to pretend. By the time I crossed the county line, the trees had started turning gold, and something in that open road made me feel 20 years less old. 1,000 miles of autumn, red and yellow through the glass, little towns and roadside diners, every mile becoming past. 1,000 miles of autumn, with the windows halfway down. Sometimes you don't need a destination, you just need to leave the town. I stopped somewhere near the mountains at a diner painted blue. An old man poured another coffee, said, "Where are you headed to?" I pointed north and named the town. He laughed and shook his head. "That's a long way just for looking," I said. That night beneath the motel sign, I watched the maple branches sway and realized I hadn't checked the time for almost half the day. 1,000 miles of autumn, every curve a different view, every road I never traveled made the old world feel brand new. 1,000 miles of autumn, no appointment, no deadline, just the tires singing underneath me and a little borrowed time. Oh! On the fourth day near the border, rain came down across the road. I pulled beneath an old gas watched the clouds turn charcoal gray. Then the rain stopped without warning, and the western sky caught fire. Every wet leaf on the highway turned to copper in the light. I didn't take a picture. For once, I just looked. 1,000 miles of autumn, and I finally reached that town. But the place I'd been imagining was smaller than I thought somehow. Oh, 1,000 miles of autumn taught me why I had to go. The destination wasn't waiting, it was everything along the road. So tomorrow I'll start south again with another 1,000 miles. And this time I won't count the distance, I'll count the reasons that I smile. Red leaves, white lines, October in the rear view. 1,000 miles of autumn, and I came back new.
Falling on the awning when I saw that little sign, same gold letters in the window, same old clock 5 minutes behind. I hadn't planned on going inside, I'd avoided it for years. Then somebody opened up the door and suddenly I was there. The waiter smiled and asked me softly, "Table for two." For half a second I almost turned around, then said, "No, just one." Coffee for two, table for one. Funny how old habits linger. I almost ordered what you wanted, almost reached across the table. Coffee for two, table for one. But the empty chair felt different today. It wasn't asking where you'd gone, it was simply sitting there. They changed the pictures on the wall, but kept the record player. The corner lamp was still too yellow, the coffee still too strong. I remembered how you'd steal the sugar, though you said you liked it plain, and how I'd sit there through the evening just to hide from summer rain. For years I thought that coming back would bring the hurt back too, but memory sat down beside me and didn't look like you. Coffee for two, table for one. I let the second cup stay missing, watched the people through the window without wondering who I was waiting for. Coffee for two, table for one, and somewhere halfway through the rain, being alone stopped feeling like another word for being left. A young couple took the table where we sat our very first night. She was laughing at his story, he was trying to get it right. For a moment I could see us in the way they leaned across, but instead of feeling sadness, I smiled at what we'd had, then raised my cup a little toward them, though they never saw. Coffee for two, table for one. Maybe that's how healing happens, not forgetting who was with us, just not needing them beside us. Coffee for two, table for one. Now the rain is nearly done, I can sit inside an old place and still belong there on my own. I love the years we spent together, I don't need to make them small, but one chair isn't always empty, sometimes one chair is enough. One cup, one chair, rain clearing in the air, I'm not waiting anymore, I'm just here.
Beneath some letters tied in blue, Paris streets and Roman fountains, places I once meant to go to. I bought them when I was 20 at a little travel fair, postcards from the destinations I was certain I'd be there. Back when every road was open, every door still had my name. Before choosing one direction, made the others fade away. Postcards from a life I never lived, from the cities I never called home, from the trains I never boarded, from the streets I never walked alone. Postcards from a life I never lived. Sometimes I wonder who she'd be, that woman somewhere in another world, who made the choices I didn't make for me. There was London after college, there was was music school in Rome. There was someone I almost followed. There was someone I chose at home. There were jobs I never answered. There were letters never sent. So many lives stood at the doorway before I chose the one I went. It's easy looking backward to make the other road seem bright. We never see the rainy mornings in the lives we didn't try. Postcards from a life I never lived. Maybe she learned French in Lyon. Maybe she watched Vienna winters from an apartment all her own. Postcards from a life I never lived. Maybe she was brave and free, but she never held the little hands that once reached up for me. I turned the final postcard over. There was writing on the back in my 20-year-old handwriting. Someday I'll live like this. I laughed because I'd forgotten how certain I had been. Then from upstairs came my daughter's voice. Mom, have you seen my keys? I looked at that old postcard, then toward the stairs, and whispered, yes, I think I did. Postcards from a life I never lived. I can keep them without regret. Every road I didn't travel helped create the road I chose instead. Postcards from a life I never lived. You can stay inside this drawer. I don't have to mourn the woman I was never meant to become. She may have seen 1,000 cities I may never get to see, but she never lived this ordinary life that became extraordinary to me. Other roads, other names, other lives beyond the frame. I didn't live them, they didn't live me, and that's okay.
Sunday morning through the curtains, coffee warming on the stove. I was reading yesterday's paper, looking for my reading glasses. Then you walked into the kitchen, wearing yellow in your hair, and that dress I hadn't seen since sometime way back when. You said, found it in the upstairs closet, then turned around and laughed. And suddenly this little kitchen was somewhere in our past. Sunday morning in a yellow The zipper barely made it. I said, looks just fine to me. You rolled your eyes and poured the coffee. Said you need your glasses, obviously. The radio played an old song we hadn't heard in years. You started moving by the counter. I put the newspaper away. No orchestra, no candlelight, no reservation made. Just coffee cups and morning sun, and 40 years between our hands. Sunday morning in a yellow dress, bare feet turning on the kitchen floor. We weren't trying to be younger, we weren't missing what came before. Sunday morning in a yellow dress, every wrinkle, every line was another little road we took to reach this morning side by side. You asked me, do you remember the first time I wore this? I said, of course. You smiled. Where? I stopped. You laughed. You don't remember at all. I said, maybe not the place. Then took your hand, but I remember you. And maybe after all these years, that's the part that matters most. Not remembering every moment, but remembering who was there. Sunday morning in a yellow dress, now the coffee's getting colder and the song is nearly over, but I'm still holding you. Sunday morning in a yellow dress, let the years keep moving on. I don't need the girl you used to be when I love who you've become. If tomorrow brings another wrinkle, let it find us side by side. There's no age on Sunday morning when you're dancing with your life. Yellow dress, morning light, your hand still fitting mine. I didn't fall in love again, I just remembered I still was. At the end of Maple Street, between the tailor and the square, there was a little wooden doorway and a bell above the stairs. 42 years every morning, Mr. Harris turned the key and opened up 1,000 worlds for anyone who came to read. No flashing signs, no polished floors, just wooden shelves and dusty light. But every book that left that doorway took a little world outside. The bookstore at the the end of the street where the pages smelled like rain, where children found their first adventures and came back older once again. The bookstore at the end of the street where the bell above the doorway rang. Some places never know they're important until the day they disappear. On the final Saturday morning, people came from everywhere. A woman brought her little daughter, said, "I bought my first book here." An old professor bought a Dickens, though he owned the book at home. Just wanted one last reason, he said, to take something home. Every customer had stories that the owner never knew. Funny how a place can shape a life just by being there for you. The bookstore at the end of the street, shelves were getting bare by noon. 40 years of words and pictures, leaving one by one too soon. The bookstore at the end of the street didn't ask the years to stay. It simply gave its stories out until there were no more to give away. At 6 o'clock, the final customer was a boy about 13. He held a worn old copy of The Count of Monte Cristo in his hands. He counted coins across the counter, then came up 20 cents too short. Mr. Harris pushed the coins back. Keep them. Buy another book someday. The boy walked through the doorway. The little bell rang once, then silence. He looked around the empty shelves and touched the counter with his hand. 42 years, then smiled. The bookstore at the end of the street turned its little sign to closed. But every book that left those shelves had somewhere else to go. The bookstore at the end of the street wasn't ending after all. 1,000 stories crossed that doorway and kept traveling beyond those walls. So he turned the lights off slowly and locked the wooden door. Some places disappear from streets, but live in people evermore. One bell, one key, empty shelves where books used to be. The store closed, the stories didn't.
Somewhere late in August, in a car that barely ran, passenger window wouldn't close right, dashboard burning in the sun.
We had $20 between us, half a tank and nowhere to. You put your bare feet on the dashboard like you always used to do.
You kept turning through the stations, static baseball, weather news.
Then a guitar came through the speakers and I shouted, "Wait! Don't move!"
You said this one?
I said, "Turn it up."
You turned the dial halfway.
I reached across and turned it farther, all the way.
Windows down, hair everywhere. Couldn't hear ourselves at all.
Maybe that's why we remember how that summer sounded.
That was the day we turned the radio up till the speakers almost broke.
Singing every word together.
Even half the words we didn't know.
That was the day we turned the radio up.
Let the whole highway hear
We didn't know we'd still remember.
that ordinary day for years. We drove past the county border,
Missed the turn toward home.
stopped for burgers near the ocean.
Shared a melting ice cream cone.
You wrote our names across the dashboard.
In the dust above the glove box.
By sunset we had nowhere left to go and didn't want to stop.
That was the day we turned the radio up.
With the ocean on our right,
Cheap sunglasses, open windows, driving straight into the light. That was the day we turned the radio up.
we thought summers never end.
Funny how a 3-minute song
Can't make it 22 again. Last week, that song came on again.
while we were driving home.
You reached across the dashboard.
Before I touched the radio,
I turned it up.
I laughed and said,
We're not 22 anymore.
"You looked at me and smiled."
The radio doesn't know that. Still too low.
Not loud enough. This is the day we turn the radio up.
Let the windows down again.
Maybe 40 years have passed us,
But the chorus hasn't changed.
this is the day we turn the radio up.
Same two voices,
Different years,
every wrinkle, every mile.
only brought us back to here.
Let tomorrow keep on coming.
Let the old songs find us still.
As long as you reach for that radio.
I know I always will.
Windows down,
Volume high,
same song underneath another sky.
we didn't stay young. The music did. the bridge and little chapel where the narrow road begins. Two old maples guard the hillside like they've always welcomed me. I remember they were giants when my hands were small and cold. Funny how the trees look just the same while I'm the one who's grown. Every corner feels familiar, every distance feels too small. Maybe childhood makes a kingdom out of ordinary walls. There's a house beyond the maple trees where the autumn leaves still fall, where a little girl once ran inside whenever Mama called. There's a house beyond the maple trees, though it doesn't know me now. Somewhere underneath its different paint, my childhood still knows how. The porch is painted white now, where it used to weather green. Someone planted yellow flowers where Dad grew his beans. There's a bicycle beside the steps, a red coat by the door, and through the window I could see a family I had never seen before. For a moment I felt foolish, standing quietly outside. This wasn't mine to walk into, no matter what I held inside. There's a house beyond the maple trees, but it belongs to someone new. Someone else is making birthdays in the rooms that carried you. There's a house beyond the maple trees, and I finally understand. A home doesn't have to still be ours for love to recognize the land. Then a little girl came running through the leaves across the yard. Her mother called her from the doorway, "Dinner's ready, don't go far." She shouted just 1 minute and kept playing by the tree. And suddenly I wasn't watching her, I was watching me. My mother's voice, the kitchen light, my father's coat one winter night. The stairs I climbed, the room I knew, none of it was gone. I carried it with me. There's a house beyond the maple trees, and I don't need to go inside. I can leave its doors unopened and still know the love behind. There's a house beyond the maple trees where another childhood grows, and maybe that's the way a home
Your chair is by the window, exactly where it's always been. A little worn along the edges from all the years you settled in. Your book is on the side table, a ribbon marking page 16. And sometimes when I enter, I forget what empty means. I still make 2 cups of coffee before I catch myself. Some habits take a little longer than goodbye itself. So here's a song for the empty chair, for all the evenings you were there, for ordinary conversations I never knew were answered prayers. Here's a song for the empty chair, not because I'm still alone, but because that little place beside me was where so much of life was home. You always watched the evening weather, even when the sky was clear. You'd say tomorrow might be colder, I'd pretend I didn't hear. You complained about my cooking, then you'd finish every plate. And somehow all those little moments are the things I miss today. We spend years waiting for occasions, birthdays, journeys, holidays. Now I know the life I treasure most was made of ordinary days. So here's a song for the empty chair, for Sunday papers folded there, for winter mornings, summer evenings, for your glasses everywhere. Here's a song for the empty chair, for every quiet year we knew. I thought that love was something people said, but love was simply living next to you. Daughter visited, she climbed into your chair. Her feet couldn't touch the floor yet, and sunlight filled her hair. She asked me, was this Grandma's favorite place? I said, yes, I think it was. Then she smiled and stayed there reading. And for the first time, I didn't ask her to move. So here's a song for the empty chair, though tonight it doesn't seem so bare. There's laughter living in the cushions, there's a lifetime resting there. Here's a song for
change is where it lives, I suppose. And someday when my chair is empty, someone else may understand. A home is made of all the places where somebody used to sit and hold your hand. One chair, one room, evening light. You aren't sitting there, but love still is.
Saturday at 7:30, you were pushing down the cart.
Milk and bread and paper towels, nothing close to work of art.
I was checking off the shopping list.
You were looking for the tea.
Then an old song hit the speakers
From 1983.
I stopped somewhere near the cereal.
You kept walking down the road.
I said, wait, do you remember?
You said,
Of course I know. I left the cart beside the cornflakes,
held my hand out like before.
you looked around completely horrified.
We're in a grocery store.
Nobody's watching,
Everybody's watching.
just one dance.
Absolutely not.
10 seconds
5.
deal. Then somewhere near the canned tomatoes, we forgot how old we were.
Dancing in the grocery store, between the coffee and the cereal.
Laughing like we used to laugh.
Ooh, when everything was possible. Dancing in the grocery store, while the shopping cart stood still.
After all these years together,
You can make me 17 still. A little boy began to giggle.
his mother smiled and walked around.
You tried to spin me underneath your arm.
Nearly knocked the ketchup down.
I said, you're going to break something.
You were laughing way too hard.
Then the chorus hit the speakers, and we danced beside the car. Dancing in the grocery store, under fluorescent lights above us.
No candlelight, no fancy room.
Just an ordinary Saturday. Dancing in the grocery store.
Maybe romance looks like this.
40 years and frozen dinners. I'm still stealing one more kiss. When the song was finally over,
You picked up the shopping list.
you said, where were we?
Potatoes.
Right
We made it almost 20 feet.
before the next old song began.
You looked at me.
I said,
Don't even think about it. Too late!
dancing in the grocery store.
Now we're somewhere near the freezer.
Maybe life is mostly little things, and maybe little things are sweet. grocery store.
Milk, bread,
One more song
shopping list forgotten.
till the music's gone. Love doesn't always need a ballroom. There were roses on the table when I walked downstairs today. 3 red flowers in a water glass, no little card to say. It wasn't our anniversary, my birthday's months away. So I stood there in my slippers, wondering what I missed today. Then I saw the coffee waiting, and your old blue cup was gone. You'd already left for work before the morning sun came on. Roses on the kitchen table, nothing written, nothing grand. Just 3 flowers from the market you must have carried in your hand. Roses on the kitchen table after all these ordinary years. Funny how the smallest kind of love can still bring someone close to tears. You used to buy a dozen when we hadn't been married long. Big bouquets on anniversaries with cards 3 pages long. Now you check the tires before winter, leave my medicine by the bed, bring the bread I like on Fridays without asking what I said. Love got quieter as we got older, but quieter didn't mean less. Somewhere between the years together, it learned another language, I guess. Roses on the kitchen table, morning sunlight through the blinds. Every petal saying something you don't always say in words. Roses on the kitchen table, next to yesterday's newspaper. 30 years of little gestures made those 3 roses feel like more. That evening when you came home, you put your keys beside the door. I asked you why you bought the roses. You said they were outside the grocery store. I waited for some deeper answer. You just shrugged and took your coat. Then halfway toward the kitchen, you turned around and said, they made me think of you. Roses on the kitchen table, now I finally understand. Love isn't always fireworks or diamonds on a hand. Sometimes love is warming up the car before a winter morning. Sometimes love is special day. Just 3 roses and 30 years of love in a water glass. The same old sound. There's sunlight on the wooden floor and ivy hanging down. The table by the window is exactly where it stood. For just a second everything felt almost like it could. Then someone asked me what I'd like, and I nearly said the usual too. Funny how the smallest words can bring a whole summer back to you. At the cafe at the end of summer, I ordered just 1 cup today. Sat beside the same old window, watched the August light turn gray. At the cafe at the end of summer, I thought your memory might hurt, but it only sat beside me like an old familiar word. The piano in the corner still has scratches on the side. You used to play 3 chords upon it when the owner stepped outside. We'd stay until the evening, talking like we had no end, making plans for every autumn that would never come again. We thought September was so distant, we thought time belonged to us. But summer doesn't ask permission when it turns to autumn dust. At the cafe at the end of summer, I could almost hear your voice, not asking me to miss you, not asking me to change my choice. At the cafe at the end of summer, all those years felt strangely near. But remembering isn't wanting back the life that disappeared. Seasons change. I smiled and watched the sunlight move slowly from my chair, then noticed for the first time I wasn't wishing when you were there. At the cafe at the end of summer, I finished every drop alone, and somehow one cup on the table didn't make the table feel so cold. At the cafe at the end of summer, I let the final daylight go. Some memories aren't doors we walk back through, they're windows we can close. And when I stepped into September, I didn't turn around. One cup, one chair, late summer in the air. I loved you then, I'm all right here.
In the bottom of my old desk, under bills from '94, I found 7 sealed up letters I had almost lost before. Every envelope had yellowed, every date was in my hand, names I once knew how to speak, and words I couldn't send. Some were written out of anger, some at 3 o'clock at night. Funny how the things we cannot say become so easy when we write. Letters I wrote but never sent, words that never crossed the distance. All the sorries, all the questions, all the love without an address. Letters I wrote but never sent, still waiting where I left them then. Maybe silence keeps its own archive of the things we almost said. One was written to my father 2 weeks after he was gone. I should have stayed that Sunday when you asked me to stay long. One was for a friend from college after pride had closed the door. I don't remember what we fought about, but I don't wanna fight anymore. One began with Dear Maria, then stopped halfway down the page. Some goodbyes don't need completing to survive another age. Letters I wrote but never sent, every envelope a doorway to a room I couldn't enter, to a yesterday I couldn't change. Letters I wrote but never sent, I used to think they proved regret. Now I wonder if just writing them was how my heart survived instead. Then beneath the final letter was an envelope without a date. No stamp, no town, no person's name, just words I'd written straight.
myself when I finally understand. I opened it. Inside were only 4 lines. You will lose people. You will make mistakes. Forgive them when you can. Forgive yourself before it's late. I don't remember writing it. Maybe that's why I finally believed it. Letters I wrote but never sent. Tonight I don't need to deliver them. Some belong to people gone now. Some belong to who I was then. Letters I wrote but never sent. I can't let them rest at last. Not every word needs an answer. Not every door leads back. I'll keep the one I wrote myself and let the others go. Because sometimes what we couldn't say was still something we needed to know. No stamp, no address, no reply coming back. Some letters aren't meant to arrive. They're meant to let us leave.
I found a box behind the wardrobe, tied with ribbon, faded white. Letters, tickets, little postcards from another kind of life. Then beneath a folded newspaper, there was one old photograph. A girl was standing by a fountain in a blue dress, looking back. For a moment I didn't know her. Then I saw those familiar eyes. The woman I called mother all my life was 21 inside. The blue dress in the photograph. Who were you before you knew me? Before the lunches and the laundry, before you became our family. Dress in the photograph, you were laughing toward the sun. And suddenly I understood your story didn't start when mine begun. You once told me you loved dancing, but I never saw you dance. You said Paris was your favorite dream, though you never went to France. I remembered how you'd stop sometimes when an old song played somewhere. Now I wondered who you danced with when you wore that dress and wore your hair like that. How many dreams did you carry before we filled your days? How many roads were waiting before life chose another way? The blue dress in the photograph, there's a whole life I never knew. Summer evenings, secret wishes, someone's hand once holding you. The faded handwriting, you had written just one line. June 1968, the day before I changed my mind. I sat there for the longest time, trying to imagine what that meant. A journey, a marriage, a goodbye, a dream you never went. I could never ask you now. Then I looked again at your smile and thought, maybe I don't need to know everything. The blue dress in the photograph, now I see you differently. Not only as the one who raised me, but the woman you had been. The blue dress in the photograph taught me something years too late. Our parents have entire lives we never think to contemplate. So tonight I'll place your picture where the morning light comes through. And when I look at that young woman, I'll remember she was you. Before mother, before home, before all the years I knew, there was a girl in a blue dress with the whole world in front of you. November had been cold for weeks, gray mornings, early nights. Then Tuesday came like borrowed spring, with unexpected light.
I bought a coffee near the park, every table filled but one. A stranger pointed to the empty chair and asked, "Do you mind?" You moved your book across the table, said, "Of course there's plenty room. I only meant to finish coffee, then be somewhere else by 2. We talked about the warmer weather, then somehow about Madrid. By 3 I knew the places you had been and hadn't been.
We weren't 20,
We weren't trying
to
or
impress.
play a part.
Maybe that's why conversation found the shortest road between two hearts. On the last warm day of November,
We sat outside until the sun went down.
2 cups became another 2,
While evening settled on the town.
on the last warm day of November.
Nothing promised, nothing planned.
Just a little unexpected warmth in a season turning cold.
You told me you had once been married.
You said you had been too.
We didn't ask for all the details.
Some things don't need reviewing.
You said your daughter lived in Boston.
You showed me your grandson's face.
And somehow talking about made ordinary feel like grace.
On the last warm day of November,
Leaves were turning down the street.
we weren't looking for forever.
We were glad that we could meet.
On the last warm day of November,
For a few unhurried hours,
the year forgot that winter waited.
and so perhaps did we.
At 5, the cafe owner started bringing tables in.
You buttoned up your coat as colder air moved in.
You said they're saying rain tomorrow.
I said, and colder too.
You hesitated for a moment.
Then I asked,
Will you be here tomorrow?
it'll be too cold outside. Then we'll sit inside.
On the last warm day of November,
Maybe something small began.
not the kind of love that needs an answer.
Not the kind that needs a plan.
On the last warm day of November,
Two lives open just enough.
to let a little winter sunlight
Fall on places closed too long. And if tomorrow brings December, let the temperature fall.
Some kinds of warmth don't need the weather.
Once they've started after all.
Cold night,
Warm cup, one question at the door.
tomorrow,
Tomorrow,
tomorrow.
June began with open windows. Four of us inside my car. No air conditioning working. Radio louder than we were.
We drove nowhere every evening, just because the roads were there. Thinking summer had forever, thinking none of us would care.
You were leaving for Chicago. I was heading somewhere south.
Danny found a job in Denver. Claire still hadn't figured out
smelled like salt and sunscreen. August tasted like cheap wine.
We carved our names beneath the pier.
Like wood could somehow stop the time.
On the final Friday evening,
We swam after sunset fell.
nobody said,
This is the last time. But
somehow everybody knew.
that was the summer we learned to let go. Bonfire sparks above the shore.
Every story we'd been telling was about to become before.
That was the summer we learned to let go.
We didn't promise not to change.
We only promised if we did.
We'd remember where we came.
On August 31st at midnight, we sat together on the pier.
Danny said, let's promise something.
Then nobody knew what to swear. Claire finally started laughing.
How about we don't?
We stared at her.
She said,
Let's not promise we'll stay the same. Let's promise we'll let each other change. And for once,
nobody made a joke.
tomorrow you'll go east,
You'll go west.
and that's okay.
That was the summer we learned to let go.
Morning waiting past the shore.
We weren't losing one another.
We were becoming
Something more. That was the summer we learned to let go.
four roads underneath one sky.
And if loving means believing,
Then sometimes love means
saying goodbye. Let the highways take us somewhere.
oh, let the years change what they will.
There's a part of us beside that ocean, young and laughing still.
Four names,
One pier,
one summer disappearing.
we didn't promise forever.
Maybe that's why it lasted. First cool morning after summer, window open, curtains move. There's a different kind of sunlight falling softly through the room. Someone's burning leaves somewhere, coffee tastes a little strange. And before I even know it, I can feel the season change. Every year it comes without a warning. One small breeze across my face, and suddenly I'm 24, walking through another place. When September calls my name, I can hear those old streets calling. See a coat beneath the maple
trees, watch the first red leaves start falling. When September calls my name, for a moment time grows thin, and somewhere between now and then I meet the boy I've been. There was a record shop on Main Street where we'd spend an hour or two. You would search through old Sinatra, I'd pretend I liked him too. Then we'd walk toward the bus stop, sharing coffee in the rain. Neither one of us imagined how much life was going to change. You left east that October, I went west the following spring. We promised we would keep in touch, like young people promise everything. When September calls my name, I don't wonder where you are now. I don't search old photographs or wish that we had worked it out. When September calls my name, I just let the memories stay. Some people live inside a season long after they have gone away. September I went walking down the street where we once met. The record shop became a bakery. The bus stop wasn't there, but near the corner stood a maple, turning red against the sky. And I laughed because that old tree had grown older. So had I. When September calls my name, I don't need the years returning. Let the leaves fall where they want to. Let the evening light keep turning. When September calls my name, I can finally understand. I don't miss the life we might have lived, I miss who I was back then. And that's alright. He's still somewhere inside me, walking underneath those trees. Cool wind, red leaves, September rain. Every autumn I remember my name. Beside this river almost every morning now, past the bridge and sleeping houses, past the old willow hanging down. I always thought I knew it like the streets around my home. Then today I watched the current and wondered where it goes. Every drop has left a mountain, every mile becomes unknown. Nothing in this moving water ever asked the way back home. Where the morning river goes, maybe someday I will follow. Past the bridges I remember, toward a road I do not know. Where the morning river goes,
take a single step. Every journey needed reasons, every promise had to make sense. I was waiting for a signpost that would tell me where to be, while the river kept on moving without asking certainty. Maybe courage is in knowing what tomorrow has in store. Maybe courage is just moving when you cannot see the shore. Where the morning river goes, there are towns I've never heard of, fields that haven't known my footsteps, skies I've never stood beneath. Where the morning river goes, I don't need to travel far, I just need to leave some room for becoming who we I dropped a yellow leaf, watched it turn once in the current, then disappear beneath. I thought about the years behind me, all the things I couldn't change, then watched that little leaf keep moving without fear, without a name. And somehow without seeing it from the start. Maybe I can trust the journey the way water trusts its heart. Keep moving, keep flowing, flowing past the places I have known. I don't need to see the ocean to know I'm going somewhere. We're stuck here. You checked your phone for taxis, I checked the morning board.
5:40 was the next one.
You said, you've got to be kidding me.
I pointed toward the city lights
and said, we've got all night.
You rolled your eyes and smiled at me.
Alright.
No
plan,
no idea where to go.
2 coffee,
1 umbrella,
and 6 whole hours to know.
The night we missed the last train,
we found a city after midnight.
empty streets.
found a diner.
You put too much sugar in your cup.
At 2 we walked beside the river.
Neither one of us shut up.
At 3 we bought instant noodles
From a store beneath the bridge.
At 4 we took a blurry picture on somebody's apartment steps.
Nothing happened like we planned it.
Nothing happened right.
Maybe that's exactly why
I still remember every line.
the night we missed the last train.
We danced beneath the traffic signal.
No music playing anywhere, but somehow we could hear it all. The night we missed the last train.
The whole sleeping town was ours.
We stopped checking what the time was and started counting stars. At 5:15 the sky turned silver.
You were leaning on my arm.
The first bus crossed the intersection.
The bakery lights came on.
Then the station doors reopened.
And suddenly the night was through.
I looked toward the waiting train, then looked at you.
Wanna miss this one too?
Don't push your luck. The night we missed the last train.
We didn't know what we'd begun.
Two people stranded at midnight, still talking with the morning sun. The night we missed the last train.
Wasn't written in our plans.
But sometimes life gives something better when the schedule leaves our hands.
We lost one train at midnight.
And found 6 hours instead.
And after all these years,
I missed that train again. Last train gone.
street lights on.
No plan, no sleep, just you and me till dawn.
Sometimes getting left behind
is how a memory begins.
Do you remember that December when the river finally froze? Dad woke us before sunrise, made us wear 3 pairs of clothes. You complained about your mittens, I said mine were worse than yours. Then we followed Dad through morning snow and down toward the frozen shore.
I remember how the river didn't look like water then, white and silent to the distance, like a road without an end. Dad stepped out and turned around, said, "Stay exactly where I go." You whispered, "What if it breaks?"
I said,
"Then you go first."
we were children, we were certain Dad knew everything back then. And the whole wide frozen river
was a world made just for us.
The year the river froze,
We walked where water used to run, Dad ahead and us behind him underneath the winter sun.
the year the river froze, we thought nothing ever changed.
Didn't know that some December days would never
Come again.
Mom was waiting in the kitchen.
With hot chocolate on the stove,
Your socks were soaked completely.
you had snow inside your coat.
Dad kept saying, what an adventure.
Mom kept saying, you're all mad.
And I don't remember being happier than that ordinary day we had.
The year the river froze,
There were footprints on the white,
four small shadows walking homeward before the early winter night. The year the river froze,
no one thought to take a picture.
maybe that's why every little thing still feels so clear.
This morning I walked down there again.
Was there ice along the shore?
No, the winter isn't cold enough to freeze it anymore.
Dad would have complained about that.
You would have checked it anyway.
Funny how the river keeps on moving,
While one winter chose to stay. Do you remember Dad's red scarf?
I thought it was brown.
No, it was red.
Maybe you're right,
Memory changes little things.
but not the way it felt.
The year the river froze still comes back when winter starts.
Not as ice beneath our footsteps, but as warmth inside our hearts. The year the river froze,
Dad was younger than we are now.
Mom was waiting by the window, and we never wondered how.
We thought that day was just a day, like thousands still to come.
We didn't know an ordinary winter could become the one we loved.
Frozen river,
Red scarf,
footprints disappearing in the snow.
the water started moving again, but that winter never did.
Dad was washing down the Chevy with the radio turned high. Mom was hanging sheets like sails beneath a lazy summer sky. My brother rode his bicycle in circles by the gate, and nobody was watching clocks, 'cause Sunday wasn't running late. Nothing there seemed special, nothing asked us to remember. We thought those quiet afternoons would somehow last forever. Where did Sunday afternoons go? Where's the radio by the window? Where's the sound of dishes in the kitchen?
on beneath our toes. Where did Sunday afternoons go? All those hours we let drift by. I didn't know an ordinary day could become the best part of a life. Sometimes neighbors came for coffee. Someone always brought a cake. Dad would fall asleep with newspapers spread across his chest till 8. Mom would call us in for supper. We'd complain it was too soon, while golden light crossed through the hallway on another Sunday afternoon. We were waiting to grow older for the real world to begin, never knowing life was happening in the rooms we already lived in. Where did Sunday afternoons go? Where are all those open windows? Where's the dog asleep beneath the table while an old record played low? Where did Sunday afternoons go? Maybe nowhere after all. Maybe every quiet hour is still here whenever memory comes to call. Today is Sunday afternoon. I'm sitting in my own backyard. My daughter's calling from another city. My son's working somewhere far. Then from the house across the street, I hear a mother call. Dinner's ready. 3 children race across the lawn. And suddenly I smile. I know where Sunday afternoons go. They become the things we carry. Little voices, open windows, coffee cups and ordinary families. I know where Sunday afternoons go. Settle somewhere deep inside us and quietly become our lives. So I won't let this afternoon pass without looking around, because someday even this small moment may be the one I wish I'd found. No holiday, no photograph, no to remember, just Sunday afternoon. And somehow that was everything. beside her long after Christmas disappeared. Every morning looked like yesterday for almost half a year.
She told herself, when things get better, I'll remember how to start. But waiting has a quiet way of building walls around the heart. January became February, February nearly gone. She kept waiting for some miracle to tell her to move on. She was the girl who waited for spring, for the sky to change its color, for the frozen ground to open, for her heart to feel much younger. She was the girl who waited for spring, thinking life would send a sign, never knowing every season starts before we recognize. Then one morning by the window, something caught her tired eyes. In a pot she'd almost thrown away, a tiny leaf had come alive. Nothing moved outside the window, winter still covered the street. But there it was, impossibly green, no bigger than her fingertip. She laughed for reasons she couldn't explain, then opened up the window wide. Cold air rushed across the room, and for once she didn't hide. She was the girl who waited for spring, till a little green reminded her life doesn't wait for perfect weather before it starts becoming. She was the girl who waited for spring, then she finally understood. Maybe hope is not a season, maybe hope is something we choose. She took the boxes from the hallway, opened curtains in each room, put the old blue vase back on the table, bought herself some yellow blooms. Then she found the shoes she'd bought for somewhere she had never been. She put them on, walked to the doorway and stopped, not because she was afraid, but because she wanted to remember the exact moment she began. Then she opened the door. She was the girl who waited for spring. Now she's walking through the morning. There is winter on the rooftops, but inside her something's warming. She was the girl who waited for spring, till she learned what seasons know. You don't have to see the flowers past the harbor, turning darkness into light. Every 12 or 13 seconds it would cross my bedroom wall, and I'd lie awake imagining what was somewhere past it all. I drew maps inside my notebooks of the places I would go, because every time that light went by, the world felt bigger than my home. The lighthouse we could see from home was calling me across the water, past the harbor, past the headland, past the life I knew as someone's daughter. The lighthouse we could see from home made the distant world feel near. Every time its light crossed through my room, I wanted to disappear out there. At 22 I packed a suitcase, Mama cried beside the door. Dad said call us when you get there. I was already wanting more. I saw Tokyo in winter, Paris underneath the rain, watched the sun rise over oceans from the window of a plane. Every city gave me something, every leaving changed my name, but somewhere underneath the distance that little light remained. The lighthouse we could see from home followed me through every journey, not across the actual ocean, but somewhere underneath my memory. The lighthouse we could see from home was the first horizon I had known. Funny how the light that made me want to leave became the light that led me home. Last December I came home again and slept inside my childhood room. The wallpaper was different, but the window held the moon. Then sometime after midnight, a pale light crossed the wall once, then darkness, then again. And suddenly I was 10 years old. I used to think that light was saying go. Now I think it may have also meant you can come back. The lighthouse we could see from home never asked me not to wander. It just stood above the shoreline while I traveled farther, farther. The lighthouse we could see from home taught me both directions somehow. There are lights that show us where to go, and lights that show us where we are. I crossed oceans looking for a world that little window helped me see, and after all the places I have been, that light still recognizes me. One light, dark sea, turning slowly back to me. The first horizon I ever knew was shining from home. boarding pass inside my hand. I was flying west for business, with no business having plans. I had a resignation letter hidden somewhere in my bag. 3 months written, never given, like a question I still had. You sat down in 14B with a paperback and cane, said excuse me for the trouble, then complained about the plane. You asked me where I was headed, I said I'm really not quite sure. You looked toward the destination screen, well that's honest anyway. Somewhere 30,000 feet above the towns we couldn't see, two complete strangers started talking like strangers sometimes do, more easily. From the window seat on flight 207, the world looks small beneath the clouds. All the roads I'd been afraid to take were lines I couldn't make out. From the window seat on flight 207, I watched the old life disappear. Funny how a little distance makes some answers look more clear. You said you'd worked for 40 years at a factory near the coast, retired last April, lost your wife the winter just before. She had always wanted Lisbon, so that's where you were going. Took me 71 years, you laughed, to learn that life's for going. Then you asked about my letter. I don't know how you knew. Maybe strangers see the things the people close to us look through. From the window seat on flight 207, you said fear can sound like reason. Stay too long inside the waiting room, and waiting becomes a season. From the window seat on flight 207, somewhere over fields of white, I began to think that staying still could also be a choice in life. The captain said we'd soon be landing. You closed your book and checked the time. I asked, what if I choose badly? You smiled. You probably will sometimes. Then you looked outside the window, but don't spend your whole life trying not to make mistakes. The wheels touched down, we never exchanged numbers. I never even learned your last name. From the window seat on flight 207, I watched the runway rushing near, with a resignation letter in my bag that suddenly felt easier. From the window seat on flight 207, a stranger changed, no life but mine. Not by telling me which road to choose, but reminding me to choose in time. 3 months later I was leaving with one suitcase and no plan, and somewhere an old man reached Lisbon because he finally could. Clouds below, a stranger I would never know. Some people stay for only hours and leave something for years. The movers took the bookcase and the table by the door. Every room was almost empty, footsteps echoed on the floor. But against the western window, where the afternoon came through, stood the piano from my childhood, still waiting where I knew. I lifted up the wooden cover, dust was resting on the keys, and before I touched a single note, I heard you in my memory. When the piano knew your name, it began with 3 small notes. The melody you played on winter nights when snow was on our coats. When the piano knew your name, my hands remembered what to do. I thought I'd lost that song forever, but the keys remembered you. You never played for audiences, never cared if anyone knew. You'd sit there after dinner when the dishes all were through. Sometimes Bach and sometimes old songs, sometimes something without a name. But whenever you were worried, you would always play the same. I was only 7 then, I never asked what song it was. Children rarely ask the questions they'll spend their whole lives wishing they had. When the piano knew your name, every chord unlocked a room. I could smell the Sunday dinner, I could see the flowers bloom. When the piano knew your name, time folded like a page. For a moment you were 35 and I was 7 years of I reached the part I couldn't remember, and my fingers stopped midair. One chord waited underneath them, but I couldn't find it there. I tried another, then another, none of them belonged. And suddenly I started crying, not because I played it wrong, but because I understood. Some songs are allowed to stay unfinished. So I played the first 3 notes again. 1, 2, 3, and that was enough. When the piano